Hello, welcome back to Young Meets Old. Dan is eating, so I'll do the intros. I'm Jeff. This is Dan, also the person that's eating. Are we testing the volume? Is the
This
volume
is
loud?
this is it. This is live.
Yeah,
We're back. Young meets old.
occasionally we have technological difficulties, but I think we're okay. So we're going to launch right in, and we're going to call this first segment because now we're doing segments. 3 segments. The first segments we're going to call Laws of Attraction. And I thought it would be interesting if we gave our own perspective, me being old, Dan being young, on what attracts us to people, friends, and perhaps companions, and what's attracted us to this area, and what types of things do we like to do, and why are people different? Why do some people like certain things and maybe don't like other things? Music, of course, has been a big topic of conversation. So Dan's attracted to music. I'm attracted to music.
So this
Some
is
people.
episode 7.
This is episode 6.
Are you sure?
I'm quite sure.
Okay, part 1 of episode 6. Attraction.
Laws of attraction. So,
Attraction. Go.
no, I would like you to talk about what attracts you to people, whether it be friends or why might you walk up to a stranger, whether it's in Thailand or whether it's somewhere else. Yeah, go ahead.
Attraction, baby. The laws of the land. I talk to strangers quite a lot. It's one of those things, and it's not always attraction. I'm just someone who's very chatty, and I'll just talk to the person on the checkout and try and make their day a little bit brighter.
And did you do that in England as well, or is that primarily a Thailand thing?
That's always something I've done, and
Okay.
I don't really know. It's just part of your personality, isn't it? And in terms of women, I think men go on attraction more than women go on attraction. That's just a personal opinion. But I think that some guys care more about personality, or I think maybe it might be an age thing. As you get older, personality maybe plays more of a role.
Yeah, I was going to ask, as a young person, you've probably had several relationships. What have you learned? And I'm using this law of attraction very generally. It's not just physical attraction, but it's just why do we do the things that we do and what do we like and how does that affect our lives? What have you learned from the relationships you've had? Have you learned from the relationships you've had, whether they be with women or
When you're in your early
friends?
20s, it's quite hard to choose a partner, and I don't feel like we're developed enough to be able to choose the right person for us. We go based on attraction. Might not work out, and then but then also that's part of being young, and then you can move on and keep having more and more relationships. As people age, they tend to want to settle down more, right? Mostly.
Yes, I think so. I know I finally decided to settle down and get married when I was 40.
40.
So you have 10 more years
10
if
more
you're
years,
if
free.
you're following the Jeff model. But have you learned from your relationships with women or even with friends? Like, I would say one thing older people do is they don't have as much time. They don't give as much time to friends that they may feel like they're not getting anything out of. Not that you would want to use a friend, but there's something about other people that maybe you just don't want to waste your time with someone who
I see.
isn't like I am very attracted to positive people.
Yeah.
Maybe we would all say that.
Me too.
But maybe we don't recognize it because sometimes negative people come into our lives. We might feel sorry for them, or they might have some other redeeming quality, but they're essentially a negative person. That's happened to me in Thailand a lot.
Yeah.
Some older people have come here and they've just criticized Thai people.
Yeah.
And I won't say specifically what they say, but they're very derogatory, very negative. So, have you encountered that? And you're a positive person.
I also am attracted to other positive people. I met a guy in the mall yesterday who's English, and I don't know how we knew each other were English. I think it was just by looks, and then he said something like stupid. He just said something weird in the mall, and then I was like, "You're from England," and then he said, "You're from England," and we're both 29, and we kind of look similar. You're going to meet him, and I could tell that he was an upbeat guy, and he's traveling here, and now yesterday we became friends and hung out for the evening, so that's great. And I like that about me. I think that's one of my best traits.
Yes, you're gregarious. You are open. You will talk to people.
Hang on, you used a word I've never heard. Young meets old. Gregarious.
Gregarious. Yeah, gregarious means very outgoing, talkative. You like to meet new people. Yeah, it's a word. Look it up.
I'll look that up.
But that's interesting. So the context here is here's just a white guy. I think I'm allowed to say that in the mall, in a Thai mall where it's primarily Thai people, but there's also a lot of
I know you look more dark than me, but
English.
you're also white.
I do classify myself as white, but you just
We're the problem, Jeff.
walked up into a mall. So I would say that this is quite rare, and I think it's probably because where we live. I think it would be very unusual for me to go to a mall in America and strike up a conversation with a total stranger with the goal of possibly having a friendship. But in Thailand, that would happen to me all the time.
But what about if you were 29?
No, it would happen to me even if I was 29 in America. In fact, I'd be much less likely if I was 29 to go to a mall in America and create a possible friendship, strike up a conversation. I might talk to people and be friendly, but I probably wouldn't think there's a person I could be friends with in a mall in America. I might think there's a person that could kill me.
Let's bring it back to women.
Yes.
I want to know,
All right.
because you asked me have I learned anything from my relationships, and the answer is probably not much.
Okay.
Because one, I'm only approaching 30, so 29. I've only had probably 3 serious relationships, and even then, how serious were they? And
how long did those relationships last?
I've done a year and I've done 2 years a couple of times.
All right. Okay.
And then
that's par for the course. That's about where I was. We're a little bit longer. I didn't end the relationships soon enough.
And sometimes it's you that finishes it, and sometimes it's them, and sometimes it fizzles out of its own accord, and sometimes, after a few months, or one of them moves away. So many things can happen.
Yes.
And especially nowadays, I feel like it's getting even more like, oh, I can just go on the app and I can find someone else.
Okay.
So that wasn't a thing for you.
That's a great topic, is like, how would I meet people versus how you're meeting people. Now, you also are very social here in Chiang Mai. You have multiple opportunities to meet people through your musical interactions, but also through your badminton. You play badminton several times a month, or a week. But yeah, when I was your age, mostly you met people like me who drank and partied, met people in bars.
Yeah,
I'm sure people met people other ways.
I would still prefer to meet someone that way. And I think a lot of people my age would still prefer to meet someone organically rather than by swiping on an app. But that doesn't mean that they can't meet off an app and then somehow magically they are a good match. So sometimes the apps do work.
Yes.
But at the same time, most people, I'm sure, are like me, and they just swipe and they've got no real interest in using the app.
But that's...
They just got... I'm busy. I don't really have time to read all the...
Well, that's it. This swiping is really physically based, as opposed to when the internet first came out, or even before the internet. There was matchmaking companies and matchmaking sites where you'd put in 20 or 30 or however many characteristics of what you like to do. Now we're talking about attraction, not just on the physical scale, but what do I like to do? What do I like my partner to do?
In the digital realm.
In the digital realm. That's right.
No. The truth is out there, Scotty.
And yet it may still not. That was a reference to
the X-Files,
for those of you keeping score. So where we're headed with this is there's many different ways to meet people. Do you use science and the internet, the swiping and the I don't even think I would call them dating apps. They're really just kind of like hookup apps.
They're like social experiments gone wrong. I wanted to ask you, in your life, having had relationships, how did you told me you meet women at parties, but did you have like a chat up line? Did you have a routine? Did you have something that you would think of in spur of the moment?
I don't remember saying I met people at parties, but in bars.
Okay, well, bars, parties.
Yeah, I wish I met people at parties, because then at least they're there because they know somebody else there. But bars are completely random.
And they might be
single. I think alcohol oftentimes contributed. Yeah. But I've also had friends say, you should meet and talk to so-and-so.
So have you ever used...
That's always more successful.
Have you ever used a pickup line?
No.
Did you fall out of a coconut tree? That's a Kamala line.
What is it?
That's a Kamala pickup line.
No. But yeah, no, I don't think I had game like that.
No?
No.
You didn't ever consider yourself a player? To all the ladies in the place with style and grace.
I think because I was immature, I think women would say, I was a, a player, maybe not on the scale of Johnny Depp or whoever we want to talk about, but I think that yeah, I was oftentimes looking for something transient, not necessarily commitment leading to marriage.
What do you mean by transient?
Like more transactional or maybe just short term. We'll just use the term
transactional is a terrible word to use.
Yes.
But short term is fine.
Okay, short term, which is not the same as short time.
No.
That has a different connotation in Thailand, and we'll be covering that probably in our 7th episode, which will be our gone.
When you say short term, do you mean something that's like a few weeks, or do you mean like a one-night stand?
Probably just, I mean, not leading to marriage. Not necessarily. It could be a dating thing, but probably not a serious dating. But again, this is when I was your age, all the way up until, and I made it till 40 without a
Question
serious
2. Did you get more action in your 30s or your 20s? Or in high school?
I would say 20s and 30s the same. Definitely not in high school. Dan will be right back after he gets a mouthful of food. Vegan food. So what attracts you to vegan food? I find this interesting because you're not a vegetarian or vegan, but we always go out and eat vegetarian and vegan meals. Why do you like it?
The colors of the rainbow, Charlie.
Okay, he's still chewing, but I think it's intriguing because a lot of people that are carnivores or meat eaters don't really look for vegetarian meal.
You put me on, when I got off the plane and I met you, you put me onto vegan food because you're a vegan. And you didn't do it in a way that's like pushy, like, oh, you should be a vegan. You just, because you're a vegan, the restaurants that you take people to are vegan. Mostly. Not always.
No.
You've also taken me to like Indish, a great Indian restaurant, and obviously they serve stuff with meat. This one is at the Maya Mall, so it's very convenient. And I teach just next to the mall, 10 minutes from my home. So I've just finished teaching. It's like 7 p.m. Apologies to the viewers, but I do have my dinner just sat here getting cold. And that's just how it is. It's a busy life. It's just non-stop. It's bada bing, bada boom. You get some vegan food. It's 90 baht, £2. And you get a huge plate of... So I've got bamboo...
Just show that plate on camera those of you that are actually...
I've got brown rice.
I can't show it. Okay. Yeah. So it's a giant plate of food that's about to spill. But this is something we haven't talked about here in Thailand, is that food is everywhere. I call Thailand a 24-hour flea market. There is food and food stalls. And one of the most popular things for vegetarians and vegans is they have what they call J buffets. J in Thai or it's Chinese or something. It stands for vegetarian. And they have these pre-made... They're not buffets as such because you order your food and they put it on the plate, and that's what Dan did. But there are places
delicious
all over on the street, and it's very inexpensive. $2 US dollars, you'll get a full plate of food, 3 or 4 different things. You'll get white or brown rice.
And I eat meat, but this is extremely healthy. So it's a no-brainer.
It is healthy. Of course, they have those same things for meat eaters too. But that's getting back to attraction. That's somebody that's on the go. I don't want to have to sit down and look at a menu and order. I just want to see the food there, and if I see it, I'll order it, and boom, it's cheap. It's on my plate. So that's a thing that I guess we do have that in malls and food courts in America. I don't know about in England, but the food courts here are on a different scale than the food courts in the United States, and I think that bears recognizing.
What was the question, Your Honor?
Do you have food courts like those in malls in England? Or do they even have restaurants where you just walk in and they have a, pre-made food?
They just don't have it.
They don't.
They simply don't.
Wow.
They're missing out on a huge sector of the public who want to just go and eat cheap food.
Well, it is risky because there's probably waste involved when you pre-make the food.
The thing I can think of is Costco. They do hot dogs. They do pizza slices.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Huge muffins.
Actual home.
I used to love the muffins.
Homemade
Costco muffin.
Some country just said that all restaurants must give their food away at the end of the night for charity.
That would be good.
I can't remember if it was England, but it was a country.
Can you tell me what is Chili's?
Chili's is a...
Chili's.
Baby back. Chili's is a popular sort of Tex-Mex style restaurants with margaritas. They have bars and
Margaritas.
they have They have all kinds of drinks, and it's a Texas themed restaurant.
So these are the things we don't have in England. We don't have Chili's. We don't have Hooters. We don't have the other one that does like chili chicken cheese dogs. Chicken.
Oh, do you have Chipotle?
We don't have Chipotle.
Is that what you were trying to say?
What is that?
The Chipotle is a order as you go. It's a fast food Mexican place. Unlike Chili's, Chili's is a full service sit down.
We do have Taco Bell, which I don't like. Personal opinion, other available places are available, but I won't eat Taco Bell again ever.
Mexican is super popular.
But Taco Bell shouldn't be.
No, I don't.
Because I felt like
no fast food. No, let me say this right off.
Burger King.
No one should eat any fast food meal. If you're eating at Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, and even Subway, it is terrible for you. It's terrible for your health. I'm sorry. It's incontrovertible. So, Dan, I'm really carrying the weight here. That is a good segue. We're talking about the laws of attractions. Why do people eat the way that they do? I will tell you right this in America. I don't know what it's like in England, but in America, we are completely deceived about food. And we're starting to see traction on this in clips and reels and whatever you call these little things. When you go into a grocery store and 80% of the groceries are wrapped in plastic, are made from chips and cookies and all kinds of other things, and the fresh food section.
I'm attracted to all of those.
The fresh, that's right. I mean, they're good, they're great, they're full of sugar, they're full of carbohydrates, but so we're being attracted. Our eyes are catching these little shiny bags, these cellophane bags, and all this stuff, But yeah, in America, it's terrible. The diets in America are terrible. We know.
I heard Ron
DeSantis levels
wants to expose all of this. Ron DeSantis.
I find that hard to believe.
No, not him. The other one. RFK.
RFK, yes.
Isn't
he
it?
Would rather
watch the video
go to the beach and drag a whale head on. But
and he's got bears. Sure. He loves bears, by the way. He's got many bears in his backyard.
That he's actually the best spokesman for healthy eating. But you are seeing, we're being inundated now with recommendations about what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. There's a lot saying, don't worry about your cholesterol, eat red meat. And when in the past it was like, that's going to lead to heart disease. No, now there's studies.
No, it's okay.
You still shouldn't eat too much, or should you eat eggs? Should you drink coffee?
So I'm attracted to beautiful women
eating a burger.
Margaritas. I do. I am attracted to the beef burger, the humble burger. But it's not an everyday thing. It's like an every fortnight thing. I want something greasy, and yet I do feel good after I eat some beef.
Do you?
I do.
Do you?
I do. Just temporary power.
And how about pizza? You've had a few pizzas this week.
It's been a great week for pizzas.
I gave you shit for having pizza. How does that make you feel? Do you not eat, like if you eat 3/4 of a big doughy pizza, don't you just kind of go,
oh. You get the Homer Simpson carb loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go into a Tacoma, but the key is to only eat half or 2/3.
Okay.
Said no one's ever actually done it. But you take some of it home and have it for breakfast. But then if you have it for breakfast, you get that thing that you get it the next morning, and then you can't work because you're like,
yes, you're completely carb loaded. So, but this is really related to how did you learn how to eat? Was that from your parents, or how is your diet?
My mother used to make amazing beans on toast. Let me tell you, it comes in a tin, Heinz, baked beans. Put it on some toast, butter that toast. It's great. Nutritious.
Is that all she made?
Delicious. Mainly that was it. Yeah. Pasta. She made a lot of pasta too.
Okay, and you love a pasta as well as a pizza and a beef burger. So you're a mainstreamer, but as I mentioned, you also are perfectly willing to go out for vegetarian, pure vegetarian, and even pure vegan.
I don't eat as much meat these days. I eat mainly chicken. I never have been big on pork. Don't really eat pork.
Pork is huge in Thailand. It's the number one meat.
Beef isn't big here. Beef isn't really available, but I don't like to eat beef often.
Only in the Western restaurants have the beef burger.
As I said, I'll have like a steak or a burger every like fortnight, and I feel like it just sort of
Makes
me
you
that.
strong.
Come on, do
But
it.
you really can't identify how your tastes and how your diet has evolved other than you got beans on toast, which I don't really think has made you the man you are.
My grandparents used to cook really nice stuff on the weekends.
Okay.
And by nice stuff, I mean pasta. Sometimes a steak with like mixed
roasts
veg.
are big in
A
England.
roast dinner is huge, quite frankly. And also, a lot of spaghetti bolognese and shepherd's pie and all the kind of English favorites. Sometimes it would be fish. She'd do like salmon with like mixed veg, stir-fried veg, and like oven chips that she'd make. She'd make the chips.
Lovely.
Gran and Granddad, they would make the chips she taught me how to make chips. And I was like, wow. Cut the potatoes up and then bake them in the oven. Come out great.
Oil on there or anything?
Or to use a deep fryer. They would do them in different ways.
Yeah, deep
My
fry.
granddad loves his
future
chips.
in deep fry.
Okay, deep fry them in oil and then
So up until I was your age,
cook them in lard.
I thought, who doesn't love a good lard? Up until I was about your age, I thought that I needed to eat meat, some sort of meat at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I did. And then I don't want to go into too much detail, but shortly about the time I was your age, I can't remember how many years, it's been over 30. I read a book called Diet for a New America, in which it talked all about the negative things from eating meat and eggs and how the animals are raised. And of course, very quickly, the three arguments for being a vegetarian are save the planet. It's much more resource efficient to eat plants than it is to eat animals.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes.
But what about all of the palm oil and the uni farming? With just one plant and they kill all the orangutan's habitats.
So you're talking
and
about
soybeans.
Like maybe almond farms,
almonds,
and things
soybeans,
well,
palm oil.
That unfortunately, I think that's a manifestation of the way that farming is done, and because there's so much land being taken up to raise meat and chickens, and chickens. If anyone ever goes to a chicken factory or a slaughterhouse, you will never eat those things again. But that's how this food is being mass produced. So, and then there's the humane things about, there's a huge article. You heard about Trump. They're eating the cats and the dogs. And you know what my reaction? They're eating cats and they're eating dogs. Here was my reaction. Why are people outraged by that when you're eating the cows and the pigs and the ducks and the chickens? Because cows and pigs are mammals and pigs are as smart as dogs.
Why?
Right. Some people have pet pigs.
They're cute.
So it's because dogs and cats are cute, but pigs and cows are not cute.
You see, I
see. So it's again, why are we making the choices? It's about attraction. Why are we attracted to eat cows and pigs and not to eat dogs?
That's chaos.
But I digress. I don't know where we're going next, except I see you still have some food to eat. So I'm going to direct us down another path. So we've talked about relationships.
We've talked about attraction.
We talked about attraction. We've talked about relationship. We've talked a little bit about health. We've talked about social aspects of
staying on health.
Life.
Could I talk a little bit about fitness?
Please.
I just wanted to say that I play badminton, but I'm starting to lose the love for it a little bit. Maybe I play too much.
You do play a lot.
I want to run more. I've been saying it for months.
Okay.
So I'm going to get some new running shoes because mine are falling apart. And then I'm going to start going to the lake, either in the morning or in the evening.
And running.
And just running around. I see a lot of people, when I go there for a walk, I see people running around. And I have also been there to run, and it's fantastic. But I also want to buy a bike so I can start cycling around Chiang Mai because I've been reading online that there's a lot of excellent cycle routes.
There are.
There's a lot of professional cyclists here. You see them in their Lycra.
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm going to look good in the Lycra, but
not with that ass. No, you might. You might. That was terrible.
You shouldn't say that, Joe.
I'm going to edit that out. He has a beautiful.
Apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. That was a joke.
Young Meat's Old is cancelled from now on.
It's a joke at your expense.
Basically,
you have a good body, a lovely posterior. Yes. Back to your biking.
We can no longer talk about this. So I'm gonna start cycling. I'm looking into what the best bikes are under $1,000. Buy a bike, road bike. I'm going to start cycling every day. What do you think?
Be very careful. It's super dangerous.
Why? The traffic?
Well, do you know the story about the man who cycled around the world? He literally cycled around the world until he came to Thailand. Thailand was the last country that he was going to complete his journey.
Is this a real story?
It is a true story. You can look it up. I don't have his name, but you can search on it. And he was killed in Thailand.
God.
Yes. So he cycled around the world, but he was actually run off the road and killed in Thailand. So all I say is be careful. But I think that's a wonderful idea. Cycle out by the mountain. Are you going to get a road bike? I think you should get a mountain bike.
Now, I'm 50-50, so why do you say that?
Well, because the great thing about Chiang Mai with the mountains is that there's a lot of hills and a lot of off-road. I don't know if you've done any.
See, I never have.
Yeah, it takes more skill, but the road bike you'd be riding on highways where it's really more dangerous. It's probably safer in the mountains on a mountain.
I feel like it's just equally or more dangerous going down mountains on a mountain
Well,
bike.
not once
If
you know
you-
when you know. What
So
you're doing.
I know someone at badminton who's a German lady, and she's married to a Thai man, and he was a professional mountain biker, racing, and he made a lot of money, and he built a house here, it's a big house. He's obviously well off, doing well for himself, but he fucked himself up. He had a terrible accident, messed his back up, had to have operations, and then he can't do that anymore.
That happens.
And I'm like, I should get a road bike because I want to do long distances. I want to see places. I don't want to just do the same mountains and risk my life on a high place, going downhill fast on rocky. Oh, I've fallen off. Oh, I'm paralyzed for life. I would much rather get hit by a Thai man in an angry truck because then he'll have to pay me.
Well, I don't think that'll happen. But
Right.
yeah, so they're both risky, and I can see if you want to cover ground and you want to maybe take some trips to some cities, which you can. You could ride up to Chiangdao. You could ride over to Lamphun and Lampang and local cities. So there's many places to go. And then there's just hiking, but you're into biking. You can talk to my neighbor. My neighbor is a cyclist.
So you're not 100%. This is the best idea you've had. You're like, you'll die.
No, I don't think that you'll die. I have a hard time sitting on a bike for a long time. But
I used to do it for long periods.
Well, then you'll be fine, and I guess you can get the right kind of seat, and you'll be fine. You'll be good. So
the other thing would be a car.
Yes, you've been talking about getting a car. I don't think that's a great idea unless you actually plan to stay in Chiang Mai 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I don't know your plans.
Can't decide.
I'm just going to wrap up this 7th podcast and you're out of here. So I think this is a good segue into, because we've been talking about what do we like? Why are we here? We've talked a little bit about this in previous segments, but I want to talk directly to people who might have thought, I'd like to go to Thailand. And I know there's abundant resources online and there's a million videos, but I want to approach it from a slightly different perspective. And I want to say, what if you have 1 week in Thailand? What if you have 2 weeks in Thailand? And what if you have a month in Thailand? I think we should each give our impressions of what we would recommend that a person does if they have 7 days, 14 days, or 30 days in Thailand. I'll go first. You can have another bite. So you're most likely going to fly into Bangkok. That's the cheapest and that's the most popular airport. If you're a big city person, you might enjoy a couple of days in Bangkok. I personally would spend as little time in Bangkok as possible. You won't necessarily see the real Thailand, but you will see fancy restaurants and a mega city of 15 million people. And of course, there's temples and the royal palace and things of that nature. But if I were going to be here for only 7 days, I would probably immediately either go to the islands, which are beautiful. That could be Phuket, Krabi, Koh Samui in the Gulf, where you'll see spectacular beaches, spectacular water. Or I would come up to Chiang Mai, where we live, which is the north, which is the cultural center. You will feel like you saw Thailand. You will see the temples. You will see elephant camps if you want to. You will see just the most amazing things. You'll eat the most amazing food. And you'll be surrounded by the Thai smiles and the Thai hospitality. So that would be my recommendation for if you had a week. What would your recommendation be if you have 7 days, only 7 days, traveling from England or Australia or America?
Phuket is better than Chiang Mai for 7 days. And the reason is because I feel like most people appreciate the beach and the sea and sea air and that kind of holiday vibe. When they leave the city or the place where they live and work, they want that change, right? They don't want to come to another place that's like built up and there's no sea and there's no beach here. So you're right, you get the Thailand experience. But I think Chiang Mai is better for like if you have a month or a couple of weeks at least.
Okay. What if you now have a couple of weeks? What would you recommend?
Then I would recommend seeing Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and the south.
Okay. So how many days would you recommend someone stay in Bangkok?
If you only had a week, I would spend just a day there. When you land in Bangkok off your flight, you should spend one day there just to try and get just do something.
You see something in the city. Okay.
And then go and fly that same night or stay one night in Bangkok. I would even just say fly as soon as possible back down to Phuket.
Okay.
And I would say don't stay on Patong Beach because that's where I went 2 years ago. And although that's the most touristy, biggest place for the people to go, you'll just be well-known part of Phuket is Patong Beach, but you'll just be overwhelmed with ladies and lady boys outside massage parlors going massage, and then they'll try and grab you, right? And they're very physical. If you're especially if you're a young guy, and they'll try and grab you.
If you're a young guy, we should preface this by saying everyone might be different. There might be a lot of couples that are considering doing this. Yeah. Single guys, older guys, younger women. I mean, Thailand is very well known.
But also, in the last couple of years, Russian people in the thousands, it seems, have gone to Phuket.
Yes.
Maybe it's not only Russians, but it's a lot of Russians.
War is
and so
Phuket is quite busy, quite overcrowded.
It's different.
So where would you go? You wouldn't go to Patong Beach. Which would you recommend?
You could go to Patong Beach for a few hours, and maybe you'll find a spot on the beach.
Where would you want to stay?
Qatar or
Karon. Okay.
Those are quiet and serene and beautiful, and you'll get people traveling around Phuket.
Bangkok is also nice.
Yeah, you'll see tourists, but you'll be able to stay a few nights and enjoy some.
And how about Krabi? You went to Krabi with us
within a week.
Yeah.
I reckon you could go to Krabi.
You could. It's only a 2.5 hour drive from.
Or you can get the boat.
Phuket.
You can get the boat. The ferry.
Well, you can't take a ferry from Phuket to Krabi very easily because you have to go all the way around this other part. But you could drive and you can take a bus. Did you enjoy Krabi?
Krabi's fantastic. There's caves,
limestone outcroppings in the middle of the ocean. It's very recognizable. Snorkeling. This is the universal symbol for snorkeling. Right. Also a gaga. Okay, so that's a week. You would say go to the beach. And in many cases, people are going to come in the winter, and so they're coming from colder climates in Europe. Probably they want to go to the beach,
and they'll be like, "Welcome to paradise." And that's why we say Phuket and not Chiang Mai, because Chiang Mai won't give you that same, like, wow. I'm in a real holiday destination, beautiful scenes. You'll be taking pictures every day. You'll go up to the viewpoints. You can go into the. We got great pictures in the caves. We went spelunking. And we just had so much fun, and you can get on boats to go to other places. You can drive, you can rent a motorbike. Everywhere you go, you can rent a motorbike. The same businesses everywhere. You'll find massage parlors, bike rental, and food.
There's good snorkeling in Phuket. If you want to snorkel in Krabi, you probably have to take a boat. But I would like to hear how you now characterize Chiang Mai, because you said it's not really that. Well, obviously it's not a beach, it's not an exotic type thing, but how would you characterize Chiang Mai, and would you say in 2 weeks that someone should try to see Chiang Mai, especially if it's your only time coming to Thailand? I would say if you don't come to Chiang Mai, you're probably missing out on Thailand.
Well, that's a bold claim, Jeff.
Okay,
but I agree that it's very different to the south, and it's also very different to Bangkok, and this is the key part where people go to Bangkok and they think it's huge. And it's also a little bit smelly and a little bit dirty, depending on if you go to the markets where they're selling the fish.
Loud.
So much traffic. And I just thought that Bangkok was a bit overwhelming.
Yes.
But then you come to Chiang Mai, and it's still like quite heavy with traffic now in Niman and in Old Town. But it's very different to Bangkok. It's smaller. It's got more like of a cultural, free spirit, hippie kind of vibe. There's a lot of young people coming in and who are like working online, so there's that kind of
the old
young
city,
energy.
the moat,
Chiang Mai is very
walls.
young meets old.
Yes, it
Because
is.
there's a lot of expats as
That's
well.
right. There's a lot
So
of
there's
people
that.
retired here, and there's a lot of people your age.
Yeah.
Even young.
That's why we're here right now. It all comes back to young meets old.
That's why we're cranking it out. So, what other things besides what you talked about, the culture? What's keeping you in Chiang Mai? Why do you like it here?
Price.
Okay.
So cheap to live.
Much cheaper than Bangkok, much cheaper than Phuket.
Which I thought matters more to young people, but I guess if you're an expat and you're living on, for example, a pension that isn't that much, we know someone who is living like that. And as an older person, if you're not that wealthy, you could also still teach here the same as I do. A lot of people can come from England and America and just get a job teaching straight away, and it isn't very well paid, but it will keep you going in Chiang Mai. You learn enough to survive, and I like that aspect of Chiang Mai. I like that there's constant demand for English teachers.
Yeah, there is opportunity here certainly for English teachers if you're willing to go through the hoops that it takes to get your certification.
Well, it's certainly easier than getting a tourist visa or a education visa. Like the education visa, you have to learn Thai, so now you're stuck. If you don't really want to learn the language, well, too bad, because you have to go to class, or at least you're supposed to. And then when you go to the immigration office, you're going to have to talk Thai to them to get your stamp, which always put me at a little bit of unease.
So for young people, your perspective on being able to stay here, of course, is different than mine. And so I'll talk a little bit about for older people over 50 with a very small amount of money in a Thai bank, you can get a retirement visa and you can stay here. And there's really no reason to learn the Thai language. It's always nice when you live in another country, or even when you're visiting, you want to learn hello and thank you and some pleasantries. But I've been coming here for 25 years and I speak basically tourist Thai. I can order food in restaurants and I can talk about the basics, but in a city like Chiang Mai, and certainly in any of these super tourist areas like Phuket and Krabi, you don't really need to speak any Thai. And so that's a good thing for an older person, because I do think a lot of older people would not come to Thailand. It's so, at least from America or even from England, it's so far away. It's intimidating. How am I going to get by there? I don't speak the language, but it's really
what currency do they
it's
use?
super. That's right. It's
Right.
just it's so easy. It is extremely affordable here. We've talked about this before, but you can eat out every meal.
Right.
There's no reason to cook at home, and yet you still stay within your budget. You can eat for $1, $2, $3 a meal, and so you're looking at a pittance over the course of a month. So back to that. So what's key? Is it just the money? I don't think it's just the money.
For some people, it's the women, but I'm not looking for that.
Okay.
I never was when I got off the plane, and I'm still not now. I think it's an aspect of it for younger men and for older men, because men in the West, I don't know if I'd call it some kind of crisis, but I feel like there's a lot of men who are not having sex nowadays. There's a lot of men who are not even caring about looking for a woman. They've given up. A lot of men just sit at home playing video games. That's like that's like a modern day phenomenon. I'm sure that wasn't going on when you were my age. I'm sure men were
not so much
partying more, and I feel like people my age are increasingly at home on laptops or playing games or just being solitary, and it's not good. It's not a good thing. There's also been a rise in, I don't want to keep it light, but male suicide, I'm sure, has been on the rise for years. And all of this is kind of worrying. And I think that for many people, they get off the plane here or the boat, or you swim here, whatever you do, and they just suddenly have all this interest from women, which you don't get in England. In England, for you to find a girlfriend or a wife, you've kind of got to use the apps now. Unless you're someone who plays a lot of sports and has all these hobbies and goes to parties all the time.
Very social, right?
Not everyone's like that. Not everyone has time for that. Most people are working a lot. And so there isn't enough time, and two, you end up relying on apps, which are not the best way to meet someone. And then there's the problem where you might meet someone and just settle for the first person that shows any interest in you. When you come here, I mean, if I go on Tinder in Thailand, pretty much every single swipe is a match. And the problem with that is when I used it, I got so many matches so quickly that Tinder banned my account permanently. They assumed I was a robot.
You were huge.
I was blowing up, and that's the problem. And now I can never use Tinder again on the phone I have. For me to use Tinder, I would have to get a new phone, which I don't want to. Which I am now looking at getting a new phone, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not for Tinder. It's because I want to make YouTube videos on my phone for several years. But the point I wanted to make was that you'd get a lot of interest, and it's not just on the apps; it's in person. If you go to a bar in Thailand, it might be the bar women that give you attention, but even regular women will be interested in a foreign guy, and so that attracts younger men, and it attracts older guys too, who might be divorced or might be single, or might be looking for love, or might be looking for something else.
I know a lot of that is Thailand and the culture and the fact that people might be looking to better their lives or they might perceive you. But even in America, if you came to America with an English accent and people heard you speaking English, you would get more attention probably than an American guy that looked exactly
Well,
like
let's book the flights,
just
Jeff.
because of your accent. So sometimes it's just that sort of mystique. It's that, they're somehow different and I might want to learn their culture and I might not want to learn their culture.
The truth is out there.
The truth is out there. So, okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've actually been weaving in. I weave stories like this.
We said we were going to go by segments.
And then I make something else.
We were supposed to do 10-minute blocks.
So what are you going to do with 2 weeks? What if you have 2 weeks? What are you going to do?
I'll just stay in the south. It's so much easier.
Okay, so
you could make so much out of 2 weeks.
So you don't feel strongly that a person would need to see Chiang Mai if they come to Thailand?
I think they should within a month.
In a month.
I think you could happily spend. I don't think you should come here for 2 weeks anyway. I don't think 2 weeks. 2 weeks is enough in Thailand.
But I agree. But some people can't afford to take
a month off work.
A month off.
Well, then that's why I think you should stay in the south. Well, you don't agree. You think you should do a week in the south and a week here.
Correct. I think you should do a week somewhere in the islands. You want to see that, but I think if you don't see Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand, you'd be missing out on a major cultural part of the country. I mean, you would get a taste of that in Bangkok, but not really. You'd learn about street food and you'd see hopefully friendly people. But when you come to Chiang Mai, it's just completely different. It's completely relaxed, and it's as we talked about it in previous episodes. I just think you step off the plane here and you feel something that you're not going to feel in those other places. Even in the South, even in Phuket or Krabi, you're going to say, wow, it's amazing natural beauty, but it's still a hustle and a bustle, and it's people out to get your dollar to some extent.
Yeah, they're more they're different Thais down there, aren't they? They're holiday, people.
Yeah,
they're out for the tourist money.
Hustling. Yeah, they're hustling. And I just don't. I think if you really want to see Thailand and the Lana culture,
That's what you call it, Lana?
This is the Lana culture.
What does that mean, Lana?
There was originally 3 kingdoms in Thailand. I don't know all, but there were 3 kingdoms up here. That's why the 3 Kings Monument in the downtown. And the Lana is I guess one of those kingdoms, and I don't know if it was the dominant one, but it's just, I guess it would be.
Well, I didn't know that.
It's just the northern Thai culture, the background. I don't know another way to say it.
Do you think you're biased because you live in Chiang Mai?
Yes, but I will say that on my very first visit to Thailand, I did spend one night in Bangkok, and I went in and did a little party, and I thought, okay, it's different. The signs are in different languages, and it's busy, and there's lots of traffic. But as soon as I landed in Chiang Mai and got off the plane and saw the moat, I felt something that I can't put my finger on, but it was tangible, and
there was an attraction.
Yeah, that's right. There was an attraction, and I suppose it's not just Chiang Mai, but I'm wondering if I'd have gone to Chiang Rai, or if I'd have gone to Pai, or if I would have gone to some of these other kind of smaller cities that are also in the north, or if I would have gone to Isan in the eastern part, Khon Kaen, and some of these other areas.
You've been there?
I have not.
Never?
No.
But they're on your list?
Well, eventually we'll probably travel to Isan. I've been through there to get to Laos. We drove to Laos. But
is there a reason to go there? Is it like lots of small villages and scenic beauty?
There are some reasons to go there. I know a guy who has lived in Thailand for like 50 years, and he goes every spring because there's something attractive about it. He goes to whether it's the temples or whether it's the relics or I don't know what it is, but yeah, there are reasons to go there. I hope we're not
Got some flashes coming off.
bidding out here. Yeah,
Are we gonna blow up or what?
I don't know, but oops.
And
we've lost video, but I think it's probably okay, or maybe it's not okay. We're experiencing technical.
No, I think we're fine. I just need to plug in the laptop.
This is just a test
The laptop
of the emergency warning system. I see. We're losing battery power. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're on the verge of wrapping up.
We're wrapping it up.
So
this has been Old Meat
Well,
Young.
I'd like to put in a plug for our 7th episode. What is it that you told me about 7 episodes? What does that mean in podcast language?
I thought this was episode 7.
It's not. What does it mean if we've done 7 episodes?
Yes, there may be trouble.
You don't remember.
My Jeff Goldblum. There may be moonlight and that's chaos.
That's not bad.
Right.
So you told me. Do you remember what you told me about most podcasts?
No, you told me you want to get a big bag of drugs.
No, you told me that most podcasts don't last past the 7th episode.
That's true.
And
because
so,
one of them ultimately will die.
Because somebody's going to die, and I think it's going to be you from eating burgers. So I said that our 7th episode should be the ganja episode. Ganja.
Do you mean we talk about weed or we smoke weed?
I
or
think
we grow weed or we sell weed?
We shouldn't smoke it. I think we should eat it.
Eat it.
And we eat it at the beginning because many people say, oh, it takes too long when you eat marijuana, that it takes too long to start to affect you. So I think we'll do an actual experiment. We'll both eat the same amount at the same time. We'll do our podcast talking about other things.
And but I'll be high as a kite.
Well, will you be by the time the 45 minutes or 50 minutes are over? I don't know. Tune in next time, episode 7, the ganja episode. This has been Jeff.
And Jeff. With Young Meets Old.
Thanks for joining.
See you next time, and remember, stay frosty, San Diego.